Hi, guys, and welcome to Tickers, the series where we review listed companies on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Thaon.
And today we'll be talking about Seprod, ticker as SEP. But before we get into the video, as always, we would love if you guys would subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Also, remember that we are on all podcasting platforms, so you can follow us on your podcasting platform of choice. It really means a lot. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. And without further ado, let's get into it. So how are you feeling about this one, Thaon?
I mean, pretty good. I think Seprod is also one of those household names. It's a blue chip stock. You know, a lot of people do recommend it in their portfolio in terms of like.
Wait, you said something blue chip. Do you know why it's called blue chip? I found this out recently. I don't know if I'm late to the party or what.
Does it have something to do with poker?
Yeah.
Really?
So apparently,
I never knew that actually. It's just
so
I guess
poker has different chips, like different color chips, and apparently blue, I think, was worth like the most valuable one. So it's like the most expensive chip. Yeah, random fact for the day.
That's crazy because that's like it would make sense because blue chip stocks are like the biggest stocks and the most profitable stocks are the ones with the largest market cap and stuff like that, or biggest reputation. So that kind of makes sense, to be honest. So wow, but yeah, I think this is a good.
Brought to you by Limitless.
Right. I think it's actually a good stock to review simply because this company touches on so many people's lives. So many people have used their products and so on. And I guess we'll talk about the specific products and their strategy because these guys are not just sitting around doing nothing. They're actually ready to, take it to the next level. So let's see.
Yep.
Yeah. How you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. It was interesting doing the research for it because as you mentioned, it is such a large company, and just like learning about. I guess I've never done like a deep dive into them. Yeah, and just looking at all the different companies they own. It's truly a massive company, so I think it'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting indeed. It's funny, I was looking through one of the reports and I saw annual reports and I saw my friend in it and I was just like, wow, what's she doing here? It's crazy. Tony, big up Tony. Tony and it's just crazy that I saw her on an ad. It was one of the flowers. I think it's Gold Seal or something. But yeah, what's your favorite Seprod product? Before we just get into all of that, what's your favorite Seprod product or most used Seprod product? I have a favorite and maybe most used.
No, that's a good question. Favorite, maybe the Butterkist cookies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say favorite for me is Supligen, bro. Definitely boost you up. I think Supligen is it's such a great product. Like I've had that from years. From when we were kids, when the tin was like looked like a can, like almost like a can of like say baked beans or so on, and you just had to. Yeah, that's when apparently Supligen did taste better them times. But it's still pretty good. And I see them do this wicked thing with like Supligen Stout, is it? With some alcohol in it. I've had it. It's decent too. A different kind of market. I like the vision. So I think Supligen is one of my favorites. Now that I'm more lactose intolerant, I don't have it as much, but yeah, I still love it. Still love it.
Sure. So yeah, you see my screen?
Yeah, bro, let's get it.
Okay, awesome. So and this is just a reminder for you audio listeners. We are on YouTube, so we try to share our screens to get, I guess a bit more interactive. So you can always subscribe to us on YouTube. But yeah, so this is my analysis on Seprod. First thing, we need to understand, how does Seprod make money? So they are essentially a manufacturing and distribution company. They have different sections all throughout the Caribbean, Latin America. So they're not just a Jamaican company, they span across the whole region, you know? And they technically, more of their revenues and stuff comes from distribution, but they do manufacture a lot of different products. And some of them, it's their products they manufacture directly, but they even sometimes do what's called like co-manufacturing. So they'll manufacture for someone else or on behalf of someone else. So there are some products that you may not know that Seprod is helping out with some of the manufacturing, because maybe the company itself can't manufacture the amount of goods it needs. So it's almost like saying, hey, Seprod or one of these other companies, can you help us to manufacture the amount of goods that we want? So in terms of some of the different product categories that they manufacture, biscuits and snacks, grains and cereals, milks and juices, and oils and fats. So some of the biscuits, I don't know if you used to eat Snackables.
Definitely.
Yeah, Snackables. Definitely. I used to like Snackables. They manufacture Snackables, Ovaltine. I used to eat that too. Yeah, classic kid. Butterkist that I mentioned before, one of my favorites, like that chocolate Butterkist. Yep, Butterkist, yo.
Not a fan of chocolate products, you know. Not at all. I prefer chocolate over chocolate flavored things, but that's just me. Yeah. But yeah, so and they do that through one of their subsidiaries, International Biscuits Limited. I mentioned milks and juices. This is probably one of the ones that more people would know. Like you mentioned Supligen already. And Surge, you know, I'm sorry, anytime I screen the Surge milk. I sit there and they have a lactose-free one for you. Yeah, those are the ones I buy, the lactose-free ones.
And you buy Surge?
Yeah, if I buy that kind of milk. Now I've been actually leaning more towards almond milk, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Betty, I'm sure everyone knows Betty, that sweetener. They manufacture.
You know, they own. I think they manufacture another milk brand in Miracle.
Yeah, they do. Well, I think they distribute it. I don't think they manufacture it. I think I'll talk about it later on.
Okay.
But they also do a lot of juices. So I don't know if you used to drink Cool Fruit.
Never.
Bro, yeah.
But I've seen it.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. And they even do this other one, Delight. Yes. I don't think I've had this one, but to me, this kind of struck me as like a True Juice competitor. Okay, it looks very similar to like some of that Tetra Pak container that like True Juice has.
Bro, definitely. Delight is,
good.
Delight was a staple back in the day when it was just before it got that look, the Tetra Pod look. It was more just like a box.
Tetra Pak?
Yeah, Tetra Pak.
And Swizzle, you must have had Swizzle as like a kid.
Everybody must have had Swizzle as a kid.
Okay, yeah. I remember like that straw, like it had the
holes at the tip.
It would like sprit it out in like 3 little. I remember like thinking that was so cool as a kid.
Yeah.
Like
iconic.
Oh my gosh. Straw. Yeah. So
bro,
they manufacture.
If you go to school, and your lunch don't have a Swizzle in it, your parents will love you, bro.
Yeah. So they manufacture a lot of different juices and milks. They do that through one of their subsidiaries, Surge Dairies. But they're also into farming. So they actually own the Surge Island Farms, which it's apparently the largest dairy farm in Jamaica. They own over 2,000 acres of land and they have over 5,000 cows. So it's really insane, Thomas. Yeah, but they are also into farming, you know.
Nice.
And I mentioned the grains and cereals. They do this through a 50-50 joint venture through a company, Jamaica Grains and Cereals. So they own half of that company, and another company called Seaboard Corporation, which is like an international company. I think it's US based. And that's where it brings in like the gold seal that you mentioned, which has gold sealed counter flour. And even also the Pronto porridge. I don't know if you have this porridge.
I've never had Pronto. I've had instant porridge. I think it's I can see the brand. I can't remember the name, but I've had instant porridge, but it's definitely never been Pronto.
Not the Pronto one, yeah. But so they do the grains and cereals, and then they also do oils and fats. So they have some brands like the Lida brand. This I've noticed.
Leader.
Leader.
The Leader in flavor. You don't know that? What?
No. Oh.
That's a classic.
TV anymore. Oh, is that
no,
old
that was
one?
from way back, bro. That was like.
I know, like the Supligen, gonna get a boost. Supligen, gonna get a boost. I know that one, but I
Boy,
don't know
it's
the
like Supligen boost yo. Supligen.
No, there's different
Boost yo.
ads though.
Oh, okay. But the
Yeah, and then
leader one
chiffon.
was a classic, bro. Like the lead, like I'm pretty
Oh,
sure I remember the whole rap. Like it's crazy.
okay. You don't have to do that today.
We're not on the
Okay.
podcast.
Okay.
Although I'm pretty sure the people want to hear. The people want it, and I'm not gonna do it. It's okay. But this is the one
Anyways,
that I was saying that I use a lot. This was one of
this
my other
oil.
products. Well, not necessarily leader,
Oh,
but chiffon butter.
oh yeah,
I used to use
chiffon.
that so
Yeah.
much, so much. Classic. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother uses that.
Yeah, my grandmother used to love this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So that they touch on that. So oils and fats. So they do manufacture a lot of different products, but then under the distribution side, they have certain subsidiaries. So they have one, Industrial Sales Limited. That's the company that distributes the Miracle. So yeah, so I think it was started as a distributor. So I don't know if they also manufacture it.
I don't know,
but the
because
Miracle
I'm
brand.
pretty sure when I buy Miracle on the back, it says made by Seprod. I need to look again. For sure.
Okay. But yeah, also Facey Commodity is one of their subsidiaries. Facey is, I think, who distributes Butterkist. Facey, I think, also distributes their Surge products, but something that Facey isn't just like food. They also have a medical arm, Facey Pharmaceuticals, that distribute certain medications, like both over-the-counter medications and prescription drugs. So Benjamin's, they apparently are the distributor for Benjamin's. I feel like Benjamin's, this rubbing alcohol, I feel like this is this is like the only rubbing alcohol brand I know. Like this is just like iconic, like that lion logo.
Yeah, Benjamin's has a lot of other products too.
Yeah,
like they manufacture. Are they the only manufacturer of pharmaceuticals outside of is it Indies in Jamaica? I can't remember, but like they manufacture.
I don't think Indies manufactures though. I mean, Indies is really a distributor.
Manufacturer, and there are not many. How many manufacturers are there of pharmaceutical products in Jamaica? I can't recall, but Benjamin's has quite a few products, like a huge product line. It's not just pharmaceuticals they do. I see
hand sanitizer, hand soap,
so on. Yeah. But yeah, Benjamin's not a household name.
Trojan.
Yeah,
they are apparently the distributor for Trojan too, and even some other stuff that I've seen here.
Alka-Seltzer Boost, yeah,
Alka-Seltzer, Aleve, the painkiller. They touch on a lot of different medical stuff. But something even interesting that we have mentioned before, that Seprod, through Facey Pharmaceuticals that they own, Facey Pharmaceuticals applied to the National Health Fund, or the NHF, because the NHF in I think it was August 2023 was asking for essentially a lot of the health centers, clinics in Jamaica needed medications, and hospitals too, the government hospitals, and the National Health Fund was tasked with the job of saying, hey, we want to put out some bids that people can apply for, or some proposals, and then people can bid for it to supply these places with the drugs. And so Facey Pharmaceuticals was one of those companies that won part of that, or they won some contracts to supply some drugs to these areas. So like I actually did an Excel sheet. So you can see, so the overall contract was valued at like 27 billion Jamaican, and Facey Commodity actually got about 3.5 billion worth of that. So this is Seprod essentially, which would be about 13% of the total contract. They were the third largest. The only people who did better than them was Lasco Distributors, which was about 3.9 billion, and Kymed, which was about 3.7, but Facey was close behind. So Seprod essentially, through their subsidiary Facey, was able to get a big part of that. So yeah,
who owned Facey before?
So it was Musson? So I think
Musson Group.
We'll talk about that. It's interesting, like when you learn about all of how these, I guess all these companies are interconnected and stuff. But yeah, that's Facey, and then also, I guess this is outside of the scope of this episode, but I have to mention it. Seprod owns significant stake, or they're the largest shareholder in a company called AS Bryden, which is also a distributor of a lot of different food products. They're based in Trinidad, but they also have, operations throughout the Caribbean region. And then AS Bryden, for example, owns a stake, or just bought the majority stake in CPJ. People may know CPJ. They are one of the largest distributors to the hotel industry, the hospitality industry. And so Seprod owns AS Bryden, or is the largest shareholder in AS Bryden, and then AS Bryden is now the largest shareholder in CPJ. So through that, it's like the whole family of distribution. So even though Seprod itself may not directly own it, they can own it through subsidiaries. And you can see even their subsidiaries are so large that they can even buy other large companies.
Yeah.
So
CPJ is a huge company, and it's listed.
Yeah, AS Bryden listed now too. So yeah, it's a massive. They're just really touched. So they're mainly like the food side, but through, like, for example, AS Bryden even has some stuff with like household appliances. Yeah, so they have that through some of their subsidiaries. So it's like technically Seprod is even in that space. So they're mainly food, and drinks and stuff like that, but they also even touch on things outside of that. So yeah, that's kind of a bit about Seprod's money, one of the largest manufacturing and distribution companies in Jamaica. Now, in terms of what's going on in the ecosystem around Seprod, one of the things that I say is important to mention is Musson. So Musson, they're a part of essentially the Musson group or Musson family of companies. This was actually from their website. You can see they show you these different companies that Musson is either like the largest, they either own fully or partly. Some of these are listed. So for example, Geddes Grant. This was actually interesting because I don't know if you noticed in the Excel sheet I showed you about the NHF contract, Geddes Grant actually won part of that too. And then Geddes Grant is owned by Musson. So Musson, through one of their companies, Seprod, through one of its companies, Facey applied, got a big part of it, but Musson directly owns Geddes Grant. I don't know exactly how much, but they also won part of that. So Musson essentially, got a big portion of that. So other companies in the Musson group, PBS, Productive Business Solutions, they're a listed company. I just mentioned General Accident. They're one of the largest, or I think they're either one of the largest or the largest, in the general insurance space in Jamaica. This showed Bryden Pie, which is a subsidiary of AS Bryden. Canopy Insurance, that's a 50-50 joint venture Musson has with GraceKennedy. So the Musson group of families, and I'm sure if you were to probably look it up, like if you were them, right? You have an insurance company. You also have a manufacturing company, a manufacturing distribution company. That company, the manufacturing distribution company, has workers, and it also has things that need insurance. So those workers will need health insurance, life insurance, other stuff. It would make sense to just be like, hey, why would I give like my competitor business when I could just say, hey, why don't you just insure with us? So it's either the workers at the company could insure, or the company itself could get some insurance from that, maybe. So I wouldn't be surprised, things like that.
Those kind of things.
Yeah, so maybe stuff like that. So I found that pretty interesting. So you have to look at it.
You know what's funny? You said Musson through, its company, Seprod. And I'm not sure if people know that Musson is the #1 shareholder in Seprod. So it's just point of information.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I'll show the shareholding list soon.
Yeah.
And then in terms of some of the competitors that they face, they do have some big companies. So for example, GraceKennedy.
You do realize how big that network is. I just want to go back to that, like that Musson group. That's huge, Like in terms of all of those different companies, like these are big companies. We're talking General Accident. Bro, I can't even imagine how much all of this is valued at. Like I'm seeing big names here, and I'm just like, wow. Who owns Musson?
The Scots.
PB
so
Scots.
I know. The thing is, I don't know the exact ownership.
Yeah.
But I know you see it here. PB Scott. Oh, wait, it's not even gonna show there. Hold on. Well, I show a picture of him here. PB Scott. He is the chairman of Musson Group. and CEO, and he was principal shareholder. It says it there. He's done
and the Subrises.
Subrises, and Pando is also part of it too. And then he works with Seprod too. So it's like
Richard Pando is CEO of Seprod.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, but so that's kind of a bit on Musson. You think they'd ever list?
No.
Okay, good. I don't think they'd list either.
I highly doubt. I think companies like that would just want to list their subsidiaries, and they themselves stay private. I think for a financial holding company, like sometimes you don't want the hassle of, as much as listing has its own benefits, you may not want the hassle or the necessity of giving away a piece of your company, doing quarterly financials, having everything audited, shareholder meetings.
Become your shareholder meeting costs you. Why the stock price not this, or why this?
I don't think they'd want to subject the financial holding company to that, but the subsidiaries for sure, because there are benefits to listing. It's easier to move shares. There's so many other benefits. So I see them just listing the subsidiaries. Just like Norbrook Equity Partners. I don't see them listing either. Just like a lot of these big private equity companies. A lot of them.
Norbrook listed Mailpack. And
plan to list. They want to list Express. They want to list other stuff too. So, let's see. Yeah,
but in terms of some of their competitors, still a lot of household names. So GraceKennedy. I mean, GraceKennedy does have the finance side in addition to the manufacturing distribution, but the GK food side of GraceKennedy. Wisynco. I mean, Wisynco is still more in like the beverages side, but Wisynco does touch on some of the foods, and they do like the juices and stuff like that. That Seprod manufacturers. They're direct competitors there. Lasco Manufacturing, Lasco Distributors. A lot of the similar food and drink products.
Yeah.
So they do have like a lot of competition in the space, and actually even did a little table to kind of show you like an idea of how they compare in size to some of their competitors. So you can see here, I'm showing you the market cap of the companies. So this is like how the market is valuing each of these companies. So I even showed the CPG and AS Bryden, which are partially owned by, Seprod partially owns AS Bryden, and then AS Bryden partially owns CPJ. But you can see that, in terms of market cap, Seprod is one of the largest out of the manufacturing distribution companies on the exchange. The only one. I mean, if you were, the thing is, GraceKennedy does have a larger market cap, but if GraceKennedy eventually, when GK splits, and you'll see GK Foods, GK Finance, Seprod at that time could, like, I'm sure if it was to be split now, Seprod would likely be larger than GK Foods. So the only one really above them would be Wisynco, the big dog. And in terms of even just revenues, they're still up there a lot in revenues. They have more revenues than Wisynco, actually. So Seprod, and a big part of this is because of the AS Bryden acquisition. Because if you look at it, AS Bryden is just about 60 billion Jamaican in revenue. Seprod is 112 billion. So a big part of that. And then now look at that with the CPJ acquisition that AS Bryden did. CPJ itself does like 24 billion in Jamaican. So that's a really just a massive group of companies.
Massive group. Seprod owns over 50%. It's a takeover. So they own more than 50%.
Wait, 50% of what?
AS Bryden. No.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure they own more than 50% of AS Bryden. I don't know how much exactly. I guess we can look into it, but to see that kind of growth is actually insane. And then AS Bryden themselves going for that stake in CPJ earlier this year. I just thought, it's kind of massive that these companies are doing this. Like a Jamaican company buys a Trini company, and that Trini company buys a Jamaican company in turn. Like, it's just, and these are massive companies. So these are not baby companies, as you show in terms of the profits. Look at this. Seprod making $4 billion profits, 4.6 billion in the past year. It's crazy.
Yep.
Crazy to see.
Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. And in terms of some of the other things going on in the ecosystem, supply chain issues, essentially all of these manufacturing and distribution companies are faced with supply chain issues. Even something recently. So, I mean, we've spoken about this before on previous episodes. I think we spoke about it with our Lasco manufacturing, Lasco distributors, and probably even our Resinco episode. So I won't go too much into detail with it. But partially because of things like global warming, climate change, Panama is facing a lot of droughts. And then if Panama isn't getting as much rain, water is scarce. They actually need water to have the Panama Canal actually function properly. So when there is less water, less ships can go through the Panama Canal, and the Panama Canal is a big it can help you to essentially cut down a lot of time if you're a shipping company. So that is causing, a lot of companies to have delays in terms of getting some of their products. Because if you're like a manufacturing company and you need some products from, another country, and that ship used to go through the Panama Canal to cut down on a lot of time, if it can no longer go through the canal, or it takes way longer to go through the canal because there's just this huge backlog, it's going to take time to get your product. And then in that time, what if you're not able to, you run out of stock of, say, Butterkist or, whatever ingredients or whatever products you have, and maybe your competitor doesn't run out because they had more in stock.
Yeah.
And then people going to the supermarket who used to buy your Butterkist, they're like, I can't buy Butterkist, let me just buy another cookie. And then they buy the other cookie, and then they're like, yo, this other cookie is bad, like I should use this, like this. And then maybe they don't go back to yours. Or maybe, like you don't really want to run out of products as a manufacturing company. So a lot of the Seprod isn't alone in that issue. So I think a lot of times it's you being able to try to source your products that you can from maybe countries closer by, or just in Jamaica itself if we have the product there. And another thing that recently happened, which I think we had mentioned it, the East Coast of the US, there were essentially the workers, as a part of the association, were striking. They started October 1st. I think they only ended up doing it for about 3 days. They were apparently striking because they were asking for like higher wages, and they were scared of the whole automation that's going on now, and that could affect their job security. So they said, hey, we want you to reduce the automation that you're aiming for and also pay us more. But when I was looking at the estimates of like what this could do, like say Seprod got some of their ingredients from the United States, or even suppose Seprod wants to export to the United States, and they export it to the East Coast. If that port is closed down because the workers are striking, that literally can just be either missed revenue for them. They could either run out of their product that they need to sell here, or they could lose revenue that they could have been projecting because they were planning to sell or transport product to the East Coast. I know that they apparently reached a tentative agreement, but it's not fully finished because they're still in negotiations, and the contract that they've signed, or the negotiations, I think only last until January 15th, 2025. So if they're not able to sort out this issue by then, we could see another strike, and then that could then affect supply chains and stuff like that.
So and you could see interest rates rising. There's so many knockoff effects with stuff like this. So yeah, it's really big. And they said they're going to, chill until after Christmas. So which is high season for them. So we'll see. But yeah, it could have very, very disastrous effects. I want to go back to your point on the supply chain issues. Still on the supply chain issues. But did you see that thing where they wanted to build a interoceanic canal via Mexico? I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I think I was the one that sent the video in the group.
Yes, it was probably you. Yeah. To compete with the Panama Canal, because Lake Gatun, which is basically the lake that supplies a lot of the water to allow
Mm-hmm.
these ships to cross through Panama Canal. It's
Mm-hmm.
been super dry. It's at the lowest levels ever, and you said it's because of climate change and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, now they're
Mm-hmm.
getting quite a bit of rain from like hurricanes, which is not good. But just over time, this unpredictable climate and so on, a lot of people are looking for an alternative. So I think it's about a $7.5 billion project to build this interoceanic pathway
Mm-hmm.
or corridor or whatever it's called,
Mm-hmm.
to allow ships to just pass through Mexico instead. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I remember I remember reading it, and it was saying that it was supposed to be a thing during the time of the Panama Canal, like when they're considering how, and they were actually building the Panama Canal, but it was abandoned. It was definitely
Mm-hmm.
abandoned because of, the Panama Canal was already built. But now,
Mm-hmm.
since the Panama Canal is facing this kind of crisis,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think they're really looking towards that interoceanic corridor through Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be
It's gonna
pretty
take
cool.
years though.
Definitely. It's over 100 miles, almost 200 miles worth of land you're cutting through. So, that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not an overnight project at all.
Yeah,
So
but I
yeah.
guess hopefully it'll make the supply chains more resistant. But the thing is, I was watching a video. I think it was a Wall Street Journal, and they were saying that the issues that the like the time it would take. So even though like it's gonna take a lot of time for you to go through it though, through the Mexican whatever canal, because it's like much. I think it's much longer.
It
So
is.
it's so I mean I guess
B-
if you can't go through the Panama Canal at all, it'd be better
Or
you
you
go
can
through
use
that.
both. At least now with that increase.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so even if you can't, there would still can be a backup, or
Mm-hmm.
it's an alternative route that you can take. And having it's like, think about it. You have a highway, but you build
Mm-hmm.
another highway. The other
Mm-hmm.
highway, is just an alternative route. So some people, if one highway backs up, you can go through another highway or another road or something like that. So it just
Mm-hmm.
offers more in terms of shipping and
Mm-hmm.
logistics for just the globe itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. And something that we also have mentioned, so I won't touch on it too much. The Jamaica is one of the countries that is looking to possibly implement a sugary drinks tax, and we mentioned some of the juices that Seprod sells, like the what is it, the
Swizzle.
Delight, the Swizzles, the was it cool drink, and those different juices. I mean, I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
exact sugar content in some of those stuff, but I'm sure some of them may exceed, I guess, the recommended sugar content. So what could happen is that if that tax ends up getting implemented in Jamaica, it will raise the price of those products, and then may make, if they're, for example, if Seprod could either, for example, do a reduced sugar version of it, so
Mm-hmm.
that the reduced sugar version wouldn't be faced with a tax and then would be more affordable. But if Seprod doesn't do that, and for example their competitor does that, like iCool, we know iCool already does have a reduced sugar version, then the iCool reduced sugar version could be more affordable than Seprod's own, and then that could then affect their business there. So if this gets implemented, and I don't know if the sugary drinks, I know it applies to sugary drinks, but I wonder if they'd even expand it eventually to like a sugar food too. Like let's say, because remember we mentioned things like Butterkist. I'm sure
You
Butterkist
always
probably
have
has a good
mentioned
amount of
Butterkist.
sugar. I don't know how much. I don't know how much Ovaltine has. I guess Ovaltine probably
Yeah.
that's not as sweet, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes the thing may not taste so sweet, but then you look at it and it
Yeah.
actually has a good amount of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once again, they're not exempt. It's just these are basically all the manufacturing distribution companies. GraceKennedy, Wisynco, all of them are going to have to think about this if this ends up going through. But yeah, that was just something that I thought about. And in terms of some of the plans that Seprod has, they are very, very big on acquisitions. We
Love
hinted
that.
at it before that they bought like AS Bryden in, I think it was June 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and so they bought. I found some stats on it. So at the time they bought 60% of AS Bryden for about 7 billion Jamaican, That was June 2022. If you do the maths on that, that would be them valuing the business at 12 billion. AS Bryden ended up issuing some shares for an acquisition of like another company. I think it's Mycon or something like that. So because they issued shares, and it was to the owners of a company that AS Bryden bought, Seprod ended up getting diluted. So they went from the 60% to the 54%. But AS Bryden ended up getting listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And when I look at if you look at what the market is valuing AS Bryden at the time of recording, at a share price of, I should pull it up, I think it's like $30-something now. It is $35.96. The market is that values AS Bryden at basically 50 billion Jamaican dollars. So remember I said that the valuation they bought it at
was 7.
The whole company was 12. No, so they bought their stake at 7 billion, but if you value the whole company, that's 12 billion Jamaican. So the company that they bought a controlling stake in at 12 billion is now essentially valued on the market at 50 billion.
4x.
Yeah.
Wow.
So their stake, which they spent 7 billion on, their 54% stake is now worth 27 billion. So they've, essentially 4x their money in a little over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's excellent business.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent business. Can't imagine what that would be like now when that CPJ acquisition, and if they buy more, like that's gonna be they're printing money.
Mm-hmm. And so this is really just showing you that, hey, these guys are serious about acquisitions. Like they're buying companies that are almost the size of them.
Yeah.
Like
And
they're not just buying some
companies.
tiny. Mm-hmm. And another thing is that in I think it was September 2023, at their annual shareholder meeting, they actually got permission to be able to issue or create more shares in the company. So they said, I think now they could technically issue up to 266 million shares, which at a price of $80 works out to about 20 billion Jamaican. So, they did. So remember I mentioned that AS Bryden, for example, issued shares to another company to buy that company. So it's like they just took in that company and said, hey, you can buy into this company because the overall company will be bigger. I wouldn't be surprised them getting the approval to be able to issue more shares, even though I guess it does give them the option of doing a secondary offering, either an additional public offering or APO or a rights issue. And I don't really want to get into that now. We have a whole video where a whole 2 sets of videos where we go through APO versus rights issue. I'll try to link it. But they either have the option to do the APO or the rights issue, or they could just issue shares to another party. So they may say, hey, we want to buy this company here, and maybe we pay some cash for it, but instead of and maybe we even borrow some money. So we take out a loan, use some of our cash, but maybe part of it would be paid for using shares. So yeah, I think that was a move as part. I mean, it's been, I guess, a year now since, but I think that was a sign to say, hey, we are willing to do that because we have done it before. They've showed you that they've done it before. I think Seprod itself actually did that through, what was it? There was a company, I think it was Facey. I may not be.
2018.
I think they had done that a few. Yeah, I think they did it.
I think
before
so.
I started investing though, but yeah.
I feel like it's Facey in 2018. They did that same strategy, and that's how they acquired Facey Commodities.
And then at the shareholder meeting in July 2024, people actually asked him, I think, about they asked the chairman, PB Scott, about the shareholder increase. And he had said that they weren't looking to do an APO at the time, but he didn't say that it was completely off the table. He was just saying that like right now, but he said that, hey, we want to have the option. But they're saying that if we were to issue shares which would dilute our shareholding if it is an APO, it needs to be value accretive, or it needs to make sense for them. And another thing, they did a takeover bid just earlier this year, or Musson, and I should pull that up. So maybe this is where I can go into the top 10 shareholding list. So
what an exciting company, man.
Yeah, so if you see my screen here, I'm showing that the largest shareholder in Seprod, this was up to June 2024, is Musson Jamaica Limited. So make sure that you remember Musson Jamaica Limited. There's different Musson companies. They owned about 31% of the company. Then there's the Coconut Industry Board, which is like arm of, I guess, the government. Then there's the Facey Group Limited, which is affiliated with Musson. That owns about 17%. So earlier, January 2024, Seprod, or not Seprod, so the board, I guess, of Seprod received a takeover bid from a company, Musson Investments Limited. So remember I said there's Musson Jamaica Limited and then there's Musson Investments Limited. So how a takeover bid works essentially, if say you had a shareholder, and I guess this would be prior to so say Musson Jamaica Limited earned the 31%, and Facey Group, they're the 17%. If you tally that, 31 and 17, that would have been 48, well, just 49%. So usually to control a company, you'd say you want to own 50% or more of the shares. The reason you want to control a company, different reasons, but say you need to get shareholder approval for something. So we mentioned, for example, to be able to create new shares in a company, you have to ask the shareholders in the company for approval of that. Like you have to say, hey, are you guys okay? Is everyone okay? Or is the majority okay with me creating some new shares in a company? Because remember, if you create new shares and if you just gave it away to anyone, you could be essentially not looking in the best interest of the shareholders. So you need to be able to, the majority of the company needs to say, hey, we think this is the best thing. We will approve this or we will deny this. So one of the benefits of controlling the company is that when there's for example, when Seprod had its AGM this year, because Musson already controlled the company, they knew if they propose a vote or they ask shareholders for something, they know it's going to go through. Like you still have to do the process of having a shareholder meeting, asking it and whatever. But at the end of the day, if you control the company because you own 50% or more, whatever you want to do with the company will happen.
Yeah.
So
whatever says goes, head honcho.
Yeah. So what this document was showing you, I'm showing on my screen here, this table here, is that you're seeing the Musson group of companies that we mentioned before. All of these different companies, essentially the MIL, Musson Investments Limited, Musson Jamaica Limited, Facey Group Limited, Stony Hill Capital, and this one, Perseverance Limited. All of these are essentially a part of the Musson group or affiliated. So they're all like working together. So it's almost like they're not technically one company, they're essentially functioning almost like that. And so what happened is that MIL, which is Musson Investments Limited, they bought a few more shares. They were just under the 50% before. But when someone is now controlling the company, so say the largest shareholder owned 40% of the company, and then that shareholder now buys 10%, so they now own 50%. They are now the controlling shareholder of the company, or they control the company. The Jamaica Stock Exchange has rules that say, okay, if a new shareholder or if a person is now gaining control of a company, you have to make an offer and all shareholders should be able to participate in the offer if they want to buy some of their shares. You don't necessarily have to buy all of them, because if you bought all of them, you'd delist the company or whatever. But if you want to keep the company listed, and to keep the company listed, you have to essentially at least 20% has to be to the public. So essentially, because they always had the option technically to just buy, because I think they only had to buy 1,000 shares, the document says.
It was a tiny amount.
It was a very small amount. So it's like, it wasn't like, I don't think that it wasn't by accident. Yeah, see it here? Showing on screen, it says Musson acquired 1,600 shares. And now that they bought that 1,000 shares, they now own 50% of the company. They now control the company. And notice 50% exactly. So they now have to make an offer, which is the takeover bid, to the other shareholders to buy some of their shares, and they did that. So they wanted to buy up to just under 14 million shares, which works out at the price they were offering at the time. I think it was $78. Works out about a billion Jamaican if everybody was to take up the offer. So I was tying this with the acquisition. So if they're going to issue shares to another person to say buy their company, what they may be scared of, because what can sometimes happen is that they're maybe scared that someone could then try to go for control of the company. So maybe it said, okay, let's assert our dominance in the company, show that we have control, and then to like maybe fight off anyone else. Because suppose, I mean, it would have probably been hard, but like imagine you own, trying to think of an example. So say you are the largest shareholder, you own 20% of the company.
Yeah. And
then you issued some shares to someone and that person now owns 15% of the company. What if that person were to start buying up more shares gradually, and they move from the 15% and then they go to the 18%, 20%, and maybe they even buy some from other shareholders who earn 10%. They eventually could control your company, and maybe you didn't want that. So I guess I think that was probably why they did that. They were saying, hey, we want to assert our dominance. We want to get control, because they always essentially could have pushed that button if they wanted to. And now they control the company to, possibly face word off anyone else that may want to, that they may have to let into the company to grow the business.
I'm just thinking about the timing of it all, because why now? I mean, as much as you say all of that, it's, yeah, they could have always pushed the button, meaning all they needed to do was buy 1,000 shares on the market, to get control. But even if they do get control, would they really and truly dilute themselves to therefore be less than 50 over time? Like it's just, for me.
But the thing is, technically they could issue shares.
Yeah, and be diluted and then fall under the 50% and
no but the thing is, we don't know how much
control.
One of the things I realized is that I don't know how much the Musson group now owns in the company, because the takeover bid, it didn't say after it passed, it didn't say how many shares they were able to buy. And the thing is, Musson Investments Limited isn't in the top 10. And a lot of the other companies that they own it through, like Stony Hill Capital, they're not in the top 10. So you can't actually know how much. I mean, I guess you could work it out, like how much they would have got if they had like everyone accepted the offer. Could actually tell you how many shares and whatnot. But yeah, I guess you could do the math on that.
I guess I'm just trying to think about the timing of it all. Like, why go for it now? Is there a decision that they want to make this year that really and truly needs majority stakeholder
It doesn't have to be this year, though. It just means that, hey, maybe we're seeing some opportunities, we're doing our due diligence, some acquisitions, and it just makes sense to do it from now versus wait till it's now time to press the button. You do it in anticipation of pressing the button. Because especially if it makes sense, because then you could even get the shares at a cheaper price. Like, where do you think? Let's say the acquisition is in a year. Do you think the share price will be where it is in a year with some of the growth plans that they have now?
Not necessarily, but this is us talking about them buying other shares, like a lot of like trying to build up their base. Then I guess not. Now would probably be the best time. I guess since they also see the plans and already know the plans that they want to execute with the company, it just makes sense to own more at this point in time. Like, I could just be saying, yo, let's just buy up shares because we believe in our plans. We believe that we'll acquire all these, large regional type companies. So might as well just go for a controlling stake and own it all, or own majority, not own it all, but own a majority stake. So it does make sense. And they have listed out a lot of other, areas that they're looking at, because if you think about it, yes, Musson has its own network. Under Musson is Seprod. And Seprod is now building out its own network of companies. And it's not just in Jamaica. AS Bryden is Trinidad. They could be looking to another company in Barbados, Latin America. The options are actually endless at this point in time. So, yeah, I believe they could be. And one of the signs is one thing that you mentioned earlier in terms of the AGM getting permission to issue more shares. To me, that signals, possible raise. Is Seprod doing a raise very soon? It's possible. I feel like at this point in time, the market it's coming back. And if they do issue a raise, and it's definitely, in my opinion, for an acquisition. And if it is for an acquisition, another big acquisition, that could see their profits skyrocket. I mean, even after looking at AS Bryden, and how that added to their balance sheet and their income statement and their profits. Imagine another profitable company of that magnitude. And AS Bryden's market cap isn't too far off from Seprod. Worse when they get this piece of CPJ and so on. So they're looking hungry. Seprod's looking very, very hungry, and I like it. It's not the typical, blue chip. They're still in growth mode, and I love to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, them and GraceKennedy, GK are really big on the acquisitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the big plans I think they have laid out. I was just showing it on my screen. So before they got they got approved to raise the amount of shares that they could issue, they previously were authorized or allowed to issue up to 780 million shares. And they had created 733 million shares. So they had the ability to issue 46 million more shares. But then they increased it to 1 billion. So now they are able to issue 266 million shares. And I was like doing some estimates, like if they were to issue the shares at $70, that's like 18.6 billion. If they were to issue the shares at say $21, at $80, that's 21 billion. They could raise. So they really do have a big, at least $20 billion they could technically raise. And what if they even plan to do it in maybe like a year or two's time, where the stock price could be at that time too?
Exactly. Are you telling the people that there's a Seprod rights issue coming up?
If I were, I'd think it would more be an APO, but
I mean, you just told us that they weren't looking to do an APO.
No. He said
it.
So he said that He said, I think I had the quote. He said that it's not that they were completely against an APO. He just said at this time, which was I think in July, we're not looking to the APO. But then he said, I'm not saying. This was from their shareholder meeting. He was saying that he's not saying that it's not possible. But he's just saying that at this time they just said it makes sense to be more flexible. So it could very well be an APO. And they could even do a mixture of stuff. So they could issue some shares as part of an acquisition. So for part of that, say 5 billion worth of shares. Then they could do an APO in a couple of years' time, for maybe part like 2 billion, 3 billion. Like you don't know, they could all do a mixture of any of those stuff.
True.
So I wouldn't put it past them.
Same.
So if it happens, it happens. But yeah, that's on acquisitions. And they're doing a lot of upgrades for Seprod too, so they're not just focused on inorganic growth. They are trying to grow the business. So Seprod has a beverage factory in St. Catherine, and they're actually doing a pretty big upgrade on that. They're spending about $6 million US, or works out to about 1 billion Jamaican. And it should allow them to be able to produce a lot more of their products, like the Swizzle, Monster Milk, Cool Fruit, Supligen. And they said that it would actually allow them to produce 300% more, which works out about 4 times more at that factory. So that's a really big upgrade.
Yeah.
And I think they're saying that it should finish, there's an article in May 2024, that was saying that it should finish by November 2024. So I mean, it's in October now that we're recording. So maybe that'd be essentially next month. And they also said that it would more than meet the current local demand. So I think part of that is to allow them to be able to possibly export and some more of some of those products. And they have some big export targets, So they actually say that they want to grow their exports to about 30% of their revenues. So for their financial year 2023, which would have ended December 2023, they said that I think they said exports were about 21% of their manufacturing operations, and they want to increase this by 44% to 30. They want to increase it by 44% so that it would then be equal to 30% of the manufacturing revenues by December 2025. So they are pretty bullish on exports. And I mean, it makes sense. A lot of these markets are, just the amount of people. You don't even necessarily have, like Jamaica is about 3 million of us. And then some of these other countries kind of they're multiples larger than us in terms of population. So I know that they said they're really bullish on pushing into Latin America and Central America. And they apparently, I mentioned before,
even if they got a foothold in the US has 100 times more people than we do. It's over 300 mil. So yeah.
But I guess for now they said they're focusing more on Latin America and Central America. Yeah. But something that was interesting, did you know that, well, first of all, I didn't know, that the Starbucks has tins of coffee?
Yeah.
Cans. So apparently Seprod does co-manufacturing for them.
Oh wow.
So they were saying that the US was running out of the capacity. I guess they were just selling that much product, and they actually contracted Seprod to say, hey, can you help manufacture some of these products for us?
Wow.
I didn't know that. Yeah. So Pando mentioned that at, I think, the shareholder meeting. And do you know that they even apparently export cows? Yeah, they're looking to. Yeah, I remember we mentioned before they have the largest cow farm in Jamaica in St. Thomas.
5,000 cows.
They apparently they want to export their cows to Barbados.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was some change. No, it was for horses. Never mind. There was some change in the. I think there was some. Is it tax or something up for like exports or importing? But it was more for horses, not cows. But yeah, that's big. Wow.
Yeah. And something else I wanted to show. I did up some Excel sheets to show the profitability. So remember we mentioned that it was mid 2022 that Seprod bought the controlling stake in AS Bryden, right?
Yes.
So pre 2021, so that I guess that 2022 would include parts of AS Bryden's revenues and profits. So if you mention that, how much that's caused them to grow.
Yeah,
2021, which was before the AS Bryden. So this was just Seprod alone, and well, Seprod and their other subsidiaries, but not AS Bryden. They did 43 billion Jamaican in revenues and just under 2 billion in profit. 2023, which would have been like the first, I guess, year where they fully had AS Bryden on their books, their revenues reached 112 billion. So they basically tripled their revenues because of that. I mean, obviously part of it was also growth of Seprod itself, but I'm just like, wow, like that's quite a big level of growth since 2021. And they even have some profit targets. So I think it was either at the shareholder meeting, I think this year, they said that they're aiming to, like, Richard Pandoe and the team or whatever, they said that they're aiming to do $1 billion US in revenues by 2025. That would work out. I mean, I did an exchange rate of 160. That would work out to 160 billion Jamaican. If they kept a similar profit margin, that would have them doing 6.4 billion Jamaican a year. Whereas 2023 they did 4.6 billion Jamaican. And if you look at what they are trading at now, so at a price of, let's see, let me zoom out. So at a price of $80, right? Which is, I guess, around what it's trading at now. With their 2023 earnings, which I said was a pretty good year for them. 2023. Because remember we mentioned they had acquired AS Bryden mid 2022, so this was the first full year of AS Bryden being on their books. They made about 4.6 billion in Jamaican in profit versus about 2.9 billion in 2022. So that was a big jump in profit there. So at a price of $80 with the 2023 earnings that they posted, that gives you a price to earnings ratio of 12.86, which is about 13. Interesting. Do you know? I found this out recently. I don't remember I mentioned it here, that the whole thing of PE. Do you realize that what it's really saying, like when it gives you the number 1, 2, 3, it's just saying how many years you'd have to wait to get back your money in terms of the profitability of the business and what you're buying it at.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've
I
never
didn't
thought
realize that.
about it like
So
that.
yes, so so if you, let's do the example. So
you have to draw out the whole fraction to show them price versus EPS. But it makes sense.
Yeah,
that's insane.
I'm gonna try to give an easier example. So if you, say someone was to buy Limitless, well, I'm not use Limitless. So someone is to buy.
No, use Limitless. Limitless.
No, I'm not gonna use Limitless. So someone wants to buy a candy company, right?
Okay.
So you say, yo, this candy company, everybody loves their candy, yo. Everybody loves their candy. And the candy company right now, in terms of, say this was, I guess, US dollars, the candy company right now is earning $1,000 profit a year, US. It's a small candy company, but it's profitable. And suppose I go to you and I'm like, yo, I want to buy your candy company, all of it, 100% of the company. And you're like, okay, what price you want to buy it at? And he's like, okay, I'll buy your company at 10,000 US. Right? You're like, okay, I mean, I could get the 10,000 now, and maybe I want to do this, or I want to go to school, or do this degree, or buy this car, maybe a down payment on something. And you're like, okay, I'll sell you my business that makes $1,000 in profit right now. I will sell you that business, $1,000 profit a year for 10,000. So if you do the maths, that actually works out to a PE. Yeah. That works out to a PE of 10 times. Okay, it will take 10 years if it were to earn the same level of profitability, because it's 1,000 US
assuming
times
it's
10.
one share.
Yeah. But remember, you're buying the full business, though, which is 100% of the business.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you buy, so it's easier when you think about it, like you're buying the full business. I guess it's different because, like, when you're, I mean, at the end of the day, we're buying parts of a company, but I just found that interesting. I didn't, like, I know a lot of people probably knew this before, but I didn't. I just used to say, okay, generally low the value is good, high the value, but yeah, that's essentially what it's saying. So it's saying, okay, if you were to buy the business at 100% of the business, I don't know if you want me, maybe I can show the math on it.
Yeah, but you'd have to just assume that the business is one share, so that the EPS is...
No, but it wouldn't matter. Even if it's 1,000 shares, it doesn't matter.
Oh, well, true. It wouldn't matter,
actually. It's 100% of the business. You're buying all of the business.
Yeah,
so
you're buying
1,000,000 shares,
business.
1 billion. So let's do the math. So this will be
it really doesn't
annual
matter.
revenues. Oops. Can't spell.
Just put rev.
Annual revenues. So we say 10,000 Jamaica. Oh, no, 10,000.
1,000 US, no? Yeah.
Oh, no. I was saying, oh, no. Let's remember, it was annual profit versus annual profit.
Profit.
So it's 1,000. And then, let's say
buy
shares
price
in a company. So let's do the, you're saying that the shares example. So say it's 1,000,000 shares.
Okay.
So 1,000,000 shares. I hope we're not losing people. So yeah. So the business is making $1,000 profit a year. It has 1,000,000 shares.
You should probably write out what PE is.
Hold on. So, and then
the buy price.
I want to say, the valuation. I am saying I'm gonna buy it at $10,000. So if I work out so PE is price to earnings ratio, and it incorporates things like the price. Makes sense because it says price to earnings. The earnings per share, right? Earnings per share. So in this example, the price, well, let's say earnings per share first. So we said $1,000 divided by 1,000,000 shares. That works out to our earnings per share after the more decimal places to cents of cents. Maybe I should do, maybe let's make it easier. Let's do annual profit of 10,000, valuation of 100,000. So the earnings per share is 1 cent. So if I say, so me buying the business, this is the math now. Yeah, I'm trying to say, so it's just I said like 10.
So the price per share.
So if I buy the business and I'm saying,
so the price would be the price per share.
Yeah. So I'm saying I'm going to buy it at 10 cents per share. And then price to earnings ratio, that'd be price divided by earnings per share. So see, PE of 10. I know a little maths. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's essentially what it's saying. But remember, the key thing is that you're making an assumption that the business is going to earn the same level of profitability. Because so you buy it right now at 10 times earnings, but what if by next year the business is making $30,000 in profit? You know, I mean, you still bought it at 10 times earnings, but then you're making that, or it could go the other way. You could make less money. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I found that interesting. That's what it's. I should have probably known that from before, but hey, we're still learning.
Always are learning.
Yeah,
not necessarily.
So
what I want to also estimate would be, so these numbers that you have up on the screen, keep that same tab, right? This is it? This
I was going to estimate. I think we're probably going to do the same thing. I was going to estimate. What I'm saying is that right now, no, I want to first to Seprod. So I'm just trying to guess the
as in, yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead. You go ahead.
So
let me not jump the gun.
Right now, trading at $80 or so. With the 2023 earnings, you're buying it at about, let's call it 13 times. So it'd take 13 years for you to get back your investment if you were to buy the company out and it was to maintain the same level of profitability, which is the $4.5 billion a year. So the market is willing to pay about 13 times for it at a $80 stock. If they were to reach their target of the $1 billion US by 2025, which, and they keep a similar net profit margin, which is 4%, make them make $6.4 billion. If the price was to stay the same, it'd be trading at a much lower price to earnings ratio of 9 times. So 9 years to get back your money. But what if the market were to value it at a similar price to earnings ratio? Or say 14 times, it could be $120 stock if the market were to value it the same price to earnings ratio. Yeah. Or what about even, I was saying 2026, if they're able to grow their revenues even more, say they do, so 2025, they're having a target of about 160 billion. What about 2026? They do 200 billion in revenue, similar profit margins. They'll be doing $8 billion in profit. If the price, or say it was to trade at a similar, at a $120 price, that's a PE of 11.
Yeah.
Remember, the market right now is willing to pay $13. And, there's things like, people would say interest rates are a bit high and, less trading is going on the stock market and things like that. So maybe at that time, the market, especially if Seprod continues on this growth trajectory of continuing to buy more companies, continues to push exports, they're setting a lot of their targets. Like, these guys are very aggressive. I think the market may be willing to pay, slightly more of like a more premium possibly to the price to earnings.
Yeah.
Could have just grown so much more, and the growth that they could continue on. Yeah. You were making a point before.
yeah, the point I wanted to estimate was CPJ's acquisition by AS Bryden and what that would do
Oh, the
for
math on
their
that,
revenues.
the math on that is a bit
Because
harder because it's
definitely,
owning piece of a piece of a piece.
yeah,
It's not impossible though, but I probably wouldn't do it for this.
this
What we should
episode,
do, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, what you can do is comment below which stock would you like us to review next. Would you like it to be AS Bryden? Would you like it to be CPJ? You can let us know in the
yeah,
comment section below.
definitely let us know. And I guess
Mhm.
we will see part of that impact of the, because the trade already happened.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure the trade already happened in July.
Mhm.
Meaning, that 44% of CPJ was already bought by AS Bryden. So
Mhm.
when Seprod's next report comes out, we should be able to
Mhm.
see a piece of that. But we wouldn't get to see the full impact till the following report. So hey, I mean, if you guys are astute, I want some homework, because that's some homework I'm probably gonna do, and just to see how much more revenues they would possibly earn
Mhm.
based on AS Bryden's acquisition and what
Mhm.
their stake in AS Bryden would be like, and so on. But yeah, it's looking like Seprod's very ambitious, and I like to see it. I like companies that are just like, yo, we're in this growth phase. No matter how big we are, we're still gonna grow.
Mhm.
And that's ambition, and that's the proper Jamaican ambition. That's what I like to see. Like, I think Jamaicans are probably the most ambitious type of people within maybe the Caribbean. Or we are known to be arrogant, but I'd also spin that and say we're ambitious. So I see Jamaican companies doing the same thing, and that's all I want to see for a JSE. So, yeah,
Mhm.
and my
Yeah.
portfolio.
Mhm.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you like this episode, subscribe, please. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Tickers, loving it. Limitless out.
Peace.